Welcome back live. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Mythicist Milwaukee show, where we keep the all-seeing eye of Horus on the secular movement. Our second eyeing today of the secular movement. We had a special podcast at 12, and now we are back at our regular time, 2 p.m. Central here from Milwaukee, downtown Milwaukee. It's the Milwaukee Cooperative Space, formerly Bucket Works, here in the Grand Avenue Mall, as we do every week at 2 o'clock. It's a gorgeous day. The sun is shining. It's a warm winter day, calm before the storm, perhaps. I think they're calling for some nasty weather here coming up. Nonetheless, we are here doing our thing. We want to remind everyone to go to MythicistMilwaukee.com and sign up to be a member if you're so inclined, or support us at our Patreon page. You can pledge as little or as much as you like per show, per week, or however you like to do to support what we do. And what we do is bring you interesting guests from around the secular world. I am your host, Rob Moore, the Deacon of Doubt. With me, as always, the Imam of Incertitude himself. What's going on today, Brian Kester?
Got the Super Bowl bets in, and if Carolina wins anywhere from 7 points to 13 points, I'll be a rich man. That is if $200 extra makes you a rich man. And also been all over the blog post of our guest on Atheist Nerd Girl, digesting everything that's been there. So it's been a good day so far.
Atheist Nerd Girl is with us. She is Alyssa. Welcome to the program. Are you there?
Yep, or poor old Kilgore on Twitter.
As I have to say it, since I'm the accent guy, when I read a phrase or a word like that, I have to say, poor old Kilgore. You can start right there. What does that mean, and where is that from?
I am a big fan of Kurt Vonnegut, specifically Slaughterhouse-Five, but big fan of a bunch of his other books. And a character that's throughout a bunch of his books is Kilgore Trout. So when I was trying to come up with a online username so many years ago, I just thought of the name, Poor Old Kilgore. So, yeah.
And it's kind of good. You don't get poor old Kilgore 05217. You've got the initial.
So yeah, you never get rejected on that one, right?
Yeah, I like that it's kind of unique. And a lot of times it's kind of cool that a few other Vonnegut fans have, noticed Kilgore, and they've been like, do you like Vonnegut? And I'm like, yes, exactly, awesome, we match up.
Are you a big reader? You're
I'm actually not a huge reader. I have my certain authors that I love. I wish I had more time and energy to read things I want to read, but mainly a huge Vonnegut fan. I actually have a blog post about this that's just called Poor Old Kilgore, where I explain this a little bit and explain that I used to not be that much of a reader until I picked up Vonnegut and got a bit more passionate about reading. So, yeah.
Well done. Yeah, and I noticed there's definitely interest in sci-fi and Comic-Con. Captain Picard, you mentioned, was sort of one of your idols. I personally do the same thing with Captain Picard. Rather, to me, it's not what would Jesus do, but what would Picard do. Usually he's probably going to get you to the right answer with a quandary.
Make it so.
Oh yeah, that's a much better way to look at the world.
Make it so, number one. Engage. Engage.
Yes. But it's that brooding when he's deciding. What does he do when Data is losing his autonomy? And I love when he puts his captainship at risk to do the right thing.
I'm Captain Atheist. So you have the old Kilgore, the poor old Kilgore handle, excuse me, and Atheist Nerd Girl, and now we're getting at why nerd. With the guys, one of the early questions here was, why is she a nerd? Why is she? If you look at your Twitter, not really nerdish. So
if you actually read my tweets and a lot of things I mentioned, very nerdy. Yeah. I'm obsessed with cartoons. I love Star Trek a ton. If you look through some of my pictures, if you want to be creepy, I don't know, but you can see a bunch of I'm an avid toy collector, especially My Little Pony. Okay. Yeah, so I consider myself to be a brony. So.
How is there My Little Pony conventions? I did not know that existed until I saw it on your Twitter.
I'm so excited.
Is it full of 6-year-olds and 4-year-olds and stuff too?
Well, no, it's bronies are adult fans of My Little Pony. It's just like how there's Trekkies who are people that are obsessed with Star Trek. there's
Yeah.
adults who are obsessed with My Little Pony.
I get it, but I guess in my mind, My Little Pony, just the actual original demographic is very young. So I guess that speaks to the power of the brand.
Well, the funny thing is, the reason I got interested in this new version of My Little Pony was because I heard John Delancey, Q. From Star Trek, was one of the voices as a villain. So I was like, okay, loved him, have to watch this show. And also, it's done by the creators of Powerpuff Girls and Dexter's Laboratory.
That's extremely nerdy that you can name John Delancey, and I have to interject that John.
And I can name a bunch of voice actors. I'm like super nerdy about cartoons.
Nice.
I think he's sold now. He initially said not nerdy. Now I see him turning
big time. And John Delancey, in fact, recently announced as one of the speakers at Reason Rally coming up in June. Did you know that?
Oh, he's so awesome! I love him.
Are you going to go?
I really want to go.
Yeah, try to go. If you can meet John Delancey, I can make sure it happens.
Well, I saw him at New York Comic Con. I didn't get a chance to go up to him, but I saw him from afar.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. You'll be. We're actually helping out with the Reason Rally, so if you come, you'll be able to actually chat with John Delancey. I can guarantee it. That's really geeky, and there's a lot of Star Trek geeks, as you can imagine, and I'm one of them. You know, I was a fan of I'm old enough to have been a fan of the original in its original rerun stage, I suppose.
Right.
In the middle 70s.
I'm mainly an original and Next Generation fan.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, that's great, man. How about
TNG is the best. I really feel. Yep.
It was great. Some of those, and I loved how they kind of redid some of the original episodes and had their own awesome forever episodes. The whole Mark Twain Data Head season cliffhanger one resonates with me. I love that one.
Well, that's season 5. The Mark Twain is season 5.
You're more of a geek than I. If you can name the seasons, man.
I can. Right. In fact, the Next Generation is what Roddenberry initially wanted to make.
Of course.
That's what he wanted to do. They did the other one because they said it was going to sell initially.
Well, he lived,
first
right?
Interracial kiss.
He made it to the beginning. He was alive for the first few seasons and actually died during the run of The Next Generation.
Right, in 1990.
If I recall. So we're all exposing our geekhood.
I'm a proud geek here.
But tell us about you probably read more of her blog. We're looking at it right now. The blog is a little bit more high-minded than nerdism and
how do you get into that? How do we go from kind of the nerdy Star Trek Comic-Con, My Little Pony Con or BroCon to
Brony? She's a brony. Tell us more about this stuff.
What do you mean this stuff?
Like
the stuff that's
the
on my
blog. You've got real thoughts. It's not just you're not just an atheist nerd girl.
I think that there's a big connection between nerdy stuff and highbrow thinking and philosophy. I think when we look into various aspects of the nerddom that we love, we can find these intellectual things you're speaking of.
I think we can. Perhaps that nerddom, what we talk about nerddom, is really the fun nerd stuff. Maybe the deep nerd stuff is what's on your blog on that, and those can find it at Atheist Nerd Girl at .wordpress.com, or just Google Atheist Nerd Girl, and it's the first hit.
Well, I kind of think that for me as a very nerdy non-believer, I've gotten a lot of my a lot of my morals and beliefs from the nerdy stuff around me, like Star Trek. I think that had a big effect on my ethics, because I watched Star Trek as a really little kid, and kind of sparked a lot of other interests for me with philosophy and other things like that. So
that is good. They're all laughing at me at the studio. I don't know if I tripped over a word earlier there or not, but
I'm sure
I'm listening to you. But they're all goofing at me.
I'm thinking Alyssa heard what you said.
I don't know what
matter. The blog is your only outlet, or do you consider yourself an atheist? Do you get out there and pound the streets? Are you upset about religion in society? Or
I'm pretty shy, and my blog has been my way of trying to get myself out there more. And as I said, I would really love to go to Reason Rally, and I eventually want to start getting myself out there more. And I'm planning on putting some stuff on a YouTube channel, so look forward to that. So my main thing is I am kind of sick of the negative stereotypes atheists get, and I just want to be a kind of a positive voice of atheism.
No, so that's a big part of what everybody does is kind of trying to change that image. Do you think are you one of these that espouses the word atheism? Do you believe that we should call ourselves atheists so that we take the sting out of that term? Or
No, I'm a firm believer in I'm proud to call myself an atheist just because the word fits me. I just don't believe in a god or gods, so why not just use it?
Right. Now, were you raised?
Like one time my mom was like, "Why don't you just call yourself agnostic? It doesn't sound as bad." And I'm like, "Well, Mom, technically I'm an agnostic atheist, but
right.
But I just can't believe." And I think you were raised Lutheran, and then, but you mentioned Catholicism as well. Like, what can you tell us, like where that came in, how you grew up?
Well, I grew up when I was really little in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Oh, UP. All right.
Yeah, UP. So,
He's a Youper.
Yeah, nice. I was a Youper. And I moved here. I moved to northern New Jersey as a little kid. And so I kind of have this mix of Midwest and East Coast. And
it's a good mix.
I heard it because she said south. She did when she said she's an hour south of America. I heard it.
Yeah, probably from talking to you guys now, I'm getting my accent out more. Like normally, just around like New Jersey people, I can control my Midwesterness.
Yeah, wait till 40 minutes in. Yeah, you're really going to be shocked.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, people from Jersey love to make fun of the Midwestern when it comes out.
Oh, because their accent.
Anyway, around here in northern New Jersey, it's a lot of like people of Irish descent and Italian descent, and a lot of Latino people. Like, so a lot of Catholics in this area. So I grew up with a lot of Catholic friends. Mm-hmm. So I kind of had to like learn about that kind of thing. It was funny because like at one point there were a lot of like I had to constantly explain to like my fellow students what a Lutheran was as compared to like what their church was. And so it kind of like taught me to like learn about religion a bit. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so into this whole atheism thing, because really early on I've been looking into religions and explaining things to other people.
Was there anything about Catholicism that you found a little bit weird when we started these conversations?
Oh, geez. I've always thought Catholicism was weird. I remember even like really early on as a little kid watching Whoopi Goldberg and Sister Act. I remember going to like the Lutheran church and then being like, and watching this movie and then being like, Mom, why don't we have nuns? Like, what is this thing that Whoopi Goldberg's doing? And she was like, no, that's the Catholic thing. We don't do that in the Lutheran church. And so I've always had this like, what's up with their stuff? So so many things about Catholicism confuse me. Like they seem very like polytheistic to me.
Right.
The saints and everything like that. I was always confused by that. There were a few times like Catholic friends growing up would explain the different saints to me and the different types of prayers, like the certain saint you would pray to if you lost something.
Yeah, Saint Anthony. That was my favorite one.
And I remember a few times I would lose things and I kind of tried that. And then after a while I was like, wait, this is really stupid. And
especially if you're like praying to the patron saint of sailors when you in fact were trying to find lost keys.
Yeah, what if you did the wrong thing? Yeah, with good intentions, you might just grow horns or something. I don't know.
I think having a bunch of religions around you growing up kind of makes you lose religion fast.
That's a good point. I grew up similarly to you. It sounds like on the East Coast in a mainline Protestant sect where there weren't any Catholics around, and the first ones I encountered, you're blown away by the actual intricacy of the ritual and the kissing the Bible and blowing smoke around and believing that this is blood and in the pantheon of saints. Honestly, if you're praying to anybody that you can't see that's in the sky dead and they can hear you and answer your prayers, isn't that a god?
Well, they can't answer your prayers. I mean, I grew up Catholic,
can't?
so they intercede on your behalf. So perhaps if you can't get to the CEO, maybe one of the VPs will intercede on your behalf. That's the idea.
So that's a level of godliness.
Yeah.
I agree with
Just all
Alyssa.
sounds like bureaucracy.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, you want to hang out with Rob Lowe, but you don't know Rob, but maybe you know his manager, and maybe you can you get Rob to hang out with me? That's what you do.
yeah, no, the Catholic thing was odd, and then you move to the city, and you realize that there's large portions of the population that are steeped in Catholicism, and they don't really realize that there's. Ooh, I'm sorry, Brian. Jeez, I just kicked his microphone into his teeth. Brian will be leaving now. His teeth are busted out. Sorry about that, man. But it's Alyssa, the atheist nerd girl, and you are listening to the Mythicist Milwaukee show. Want to remind everybody about Batman and Jesus coming up this year. A nerd girl should appreciate the Batman mythology. We're actually producing a movie this year with a local filmmaker that's going to highlight mythicism in terms of comparing Jesus's the mythology of Jesus and how it's changed over the centuries to a more modern story like Batman, and how it was kind of invented as one thing and has taken different incarnations over the years, from a camp comedy to a
Right.
darker but still comic take with Tim Burton onto like even darker, super creepy Christopher Nolan era and on and so forth. Are you a Batman fan?
I'm a Batman fan. I'm mostly a fan of the animated series.
Okay, that's from the 90s?
The early 90s.
Yeah. Never watched too much of that one myself, is it?
I think it's the best version of
Nice.
Batman.
Nice.
So
Is it on Netflix?
I have no idea. I have the DVDs. So
You are a nerd.
yeah.
And I know at Comic-Con, I can't remember if it was Catwoman or Batgirl was your first first go round in costume.
Yeah, Catwoman was my first. I think I want to sometime when I cosplay again, I'm gonna try to redo my Catwoman costume.
Right.
Because that was like my first try at it, and I think I can do better. But yeah.
A big part of your blog and kind of what your Twitters you're talking about relates to kind of body image issues. I think that's part of like the shirtless Sundays, no pants Fridays, and the Mammary Mondays. Like, can you tell us about where these are coming from?
I just kind of do that to be a bit cheeky. Like, I don't really I'm not trying to take a stance on body positivity or anything like that. I've used those hashtags, but I don't know. I don't really have any specific reason for doing those kind of things. I don't have a stance I'm taking. Actually,
Okay.
The funny thing is I've gotten some grief about my pictures from feminists, which is funny because I've always kind of considered myself to be a feminist, but now there's this rise of radical feminists that want women to cover up and not be objectified.
Go ahead and talk to us about that a little bit. It's a sensitive and a current issue. The whole Richard Dawkins flap and and as men we're sort of baffled. To me, it's like this movement is riddled with women. But tell us what your take on that whole thing.
Yeah, I just think it's the whole thing about women shouldn't be objectified and this uber sensitivity we're starting to get into. I think it's it's almost like another form of sexual repression to me, and I can't even begin to. I have so many thoughts on it.
You go for it. You can expand a little bit.
I'm just trying to think of which direction I'm going right now.
Is it fair to say that you feel that open sexuality in women is stigmatized too much?
Yeah, I definitely think that. It's strange to me how people want to look down upon sexuality when it's just a natural part of human life. I think that the fact that pornography is still a bit of a controversial and touchy subject with people in this day and age is so ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's almost like with this uber sensitivity and hating on it that happens, actually it tends to hurt that kind of thing more than help it. I don't think it's healthy for people's sexuality to point to a naked body and say that there's something wrong about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't actually intend for any of my pictures to be that sexual. I kind of just do a simple pose, and the people looking at it can interpret it however way they want to. I'm not trying to go for anything, actually. And I've gotten different. It's always interesting to hear the feedback on those kind of things.
Yeah,
And
you mentioned you mentioned another piece like on there, and I'm sorry if I interrupted, but as it relates, like the sexuality being repressed as it relates directly to religion, you say that like you were confused when you were a young girl hearing the word virgin in church, and you describe, I just thought that was a nice person, and so it seems like right away these images or these views on sexuality are kind of implanted.
Yes. Like the fact that we're told as little kids that you're not supposed to have sex until you go through some certain ceremony before God and everything, and then you can officially do it, and then it just doesn't. If anything, that's so unnatural. We're animals, and we can just have sex. It's fine as long as we're healthy and safe about it. And I think having all these restrictions on it from things like that.
Well, the shame that goes with it is a huge tool that religion has used over the years to repress sexuality for one reason or another. But shame and guilt is another thing that the Catholics had that I didn't really have. I guess there wasn't, in general in America, sexuality is demonized. Mm-hmm. Where we get violence completely glorified, yes. And for me, I like to say that we should rather worship Beowulf and the kind of the Viking tradition of death by honor in battle,
or Klingon,
yes, or fighting the monster that no one will fight. That's the American ethic. It's not Christian, and none of what we do is Christian. So, believe me, we're right on board. In general, you're comfortable with nudity, and you're just that kind of person. That's fair to say that, right? We have a question from the audience. Some feminists, for some feminists, pornography is actually anti-male due to the male's genitalia being the only focal point there, but women get the entire body shown. Have you ever heard of that?
I've never heard that one. That's an interesting one.
Kind of. It almost in a way objectifies men in a way that women aren't, I suppose. If we get to enjoy the whole woman, but a man is only portrayed as a penis. Have you ever heard of that, Brian?
I mean, I've heard of it. You can make that argument, sure.
So, do you think in our secular movement is sexism a problem? Do women have a real issue getting forward? Do you know anything about that?
I've heard these kind of things, but I don't really personally see that much of a problem myself. I think a lot of the community is really open-minded and open to more female voices. I feel like I've been very welcomed into the community the longer I've talked to atheists online. So I personally don't feel any sort of thing like that.
Okay, well, there's issues like that, and as well as the race thing, and it baffles me a little bit because if you just look at the demographic, it's hard to. It's hard for it to have avoided being the way it is, which is largely male and white, and it's just a product of where most atheists happen to come from originally, and I think it's a little unfair for people to get too
but you could ask the question why that is.
I went to college for sociology, so I kind of immediately have this understanding of demographics and development of history, and so I kind of understand why the community is mainly male and white and
tell us. I don't know this. I'd love to hear it.
Well,
and I'm not questioning you. I'm just curious. I've not heard an explanation like this.
Well, there's a lot of factors to this. I can't break this all down right now. Why I and I don't want to like get in trouble for like explaining anything wrong, but
Well, you may overestimate our listenership.
well, I think a lot of white males have a lot of things connected to the atheism movement are things like science and philosophy and history and things that I personally haven't had too many girlfriends, but like I have noticed that many girls are into, and it's typically been like male things, but I don't think that's like any sort of sexist reason for that. I think it's just happened to be that way.
Okay.
And it can start to change, and I think it is starting to change. More women are becoming vocal and interested in things like philosophy and science and history and everything like that.
And that's true for NASCAR and football. I mean, those were traditionally male things, but more and more women, especially female NASCAR drivers and fans. I mean, the fan base of the NFL they were very smart to market to women. And I suppose the atheists can do that as well.
I think a lot of things like science and whatnot for so many decades were traditionally socialized in the educational system to be male oriented. And I think we're starting to see a shift with girls starting to be more interested in these things too.
That is a very good explanation. Thank you. I hadn't really considered, kind of where that came from. That's a good point.
Well, others have brought up the lack of women in science as a sociological phenomenon and a problem going forward in the future. Have you blogged about that? Do you feel an activism there, or are you just sort of letting it take its course naturally?
It's one of those problems where, yes, there are systemic issues with that kind of thing, but I don't see an immediate solution to it, how I can exactly speak out on it. Personally, I'm the type of woman that's always been interested in science. I'm not exactly great with stuff like biology and cosmology and astrophysics and shit like that, but I'm a social science kind of person, like I said, sociology, and I think that still counts as science.
It does. It does. And tell us from.
I've gotten grief about that kind of thing before. Like,
that's not true science.
No, nonsense. We need more of that. And as from a social science background, then tell us, as a society, do we still enforce gender roles a little bit by things? You brought up My Little Pony. Should there be more male bronies out there, and should we, let little girls play with trucks more still?
What I love about the brony community is that they're all about challenging stereotypes and gender roles and boys wearing pink and
nice
things like that. It's really awesome.
We have the little boys' room with the rainbows and the ponies on the walls.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why I'm so into my nerdy stuff and kind of speak about it so much is because I kind of see hope for humanity in things like that. In the arts is how we're gonna also advance.
It's a good point. You mentioned too that looks can be deceiving. One of the blog posts you mentioned is that, and I can't remember the guy's name, but it was a British scientist that was getting an award, and he got a lot of crap for his his shirt that he was wearing. But it also projects the stereotype that either beautiful women can't be smart, or sexy. If you're sexy, you can't be smart. That you're immediately pigeonholed, and I think you're fighting against that.
Yeah, it's this kind of like, I think in Western culture, even from religious and non-religious, women have this funny line to walk with, like, should we enjoy sex or should we not enjoy sex? Like, it's almost like if you act like you enjoy it, you're gonna be shamed for it. Mm-hmm. Like, it's so ridiculous.
Whereas there's a double standard. Men that don't seem to have that. The shame involved. Well, of course they like sex.
Yeah.
Well, and unfortunately, the Puritan base resonates. I mean, this is how the country was populated, or and we know, it's a shame that maybe a culture didn't spring up sooner from the other areas, from Florida or from Virginia, but it was New England that really ended up being that Puritan culture that dominated the landscape here. And like I say, we see it every day. It's okay to kill somebody because you might have needed to survive on the frontier with your rifle, but don't let anybody see you enjoying sex. And Brian's brought up before and you might be able to weigh in on this, Alyssa, as a sociologist. If I'm
not a sociologist.
Well, we tend to.
Amateur sociologist.
I'm an exaggerator, so go with it. All right. Today you're my sociologist. And but
I don't want to ever claim that I am one.
George was a marine biologist once on Seinfeld.
Right. Back to my point, people. If cultures in the north or in difficult latitudes for child rearing demonize sex, then you don't have 50 kids to raise. Whereas if you're in the tropics, many Polynesian cultures do not have the same taboo against sex. It's very open and talked about, because if you have 10 kids, there's plenty of fruit year round to eat. So do you think that played into it at all?
That's a tough one.
So yeah, that's more of an anthropology question.
Well, excuse me. It's a social anthropology.
Anthropology and sociology, there's so much overlap.
Thank you.
Then there's historical sociology, which is basically anthropology. So.
Well, growing up as a girl, are there mixed messages that you get about sex? So tell us, as we grew up as boys, what are you getting that sends weird messages?
Oh, geez. It's so hard for me to exactly pinpoint the mixed messages, because
it seems like with the wait till marriage, is it absolutely opposed with the headlines I see on Cosmo when I'm checking out at Walgreens or something? In one way, sex is glorified in Cosmo, and then you should wait. There's another portion of the people are saying wait till marriage.
Right, but then you have Bratz dolls that are dressing with low cut tops and crazy makeup.
It's just conflicting, going back and forth, hearing the sort of messages of with the certain conditions to which you're supposed to have sex versus what you see when you turn on the TV. So. Yeah,
I wonder if they're all religious. Like you said, it sounds the regressive left. Is saying the same thing. Is sometimes the religious.
I would attribute the regressive left to stuff like. Have you ever heard of Anita Sarkeesian?
Yes, I have. And Gamergate.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I would attribute regressive left to people like her. Acting like a sexy woman in a video game is a bad thing because she looks sexy, and that we shouldn't objectify women too much. And I just that's what I refer to.
It's a good point, right? Perhaps if every woman was depicted as this, busty, scantily clad woman, maybe there's more point to it. But I see women in video games being cast in all kinds of ways. But you're right, just to say we should get rid of the sexy seems as much dogmatic as any religion.
And I think of regressive left as people that want to censor art, that want to dictate what art is. And because I think of video games just like movies or any other form of media. They are art. And so when you tell the creators, this is wrong because such and such half-baked researched idea, which I sincerely think if Anita Sarkeesian handed in her videos as papers, as undergrad papers, she would get a failing grade.
Well, in your sociology class.
Yes.
I don't know this person, so she's like an art censor.
Oh, she does this she has a series called Women versus Tropes in Video Games, and
okay.
Yeah, it's all about how women are poorly portrayed in video games, but
even Princess Peach being saved by Mario in the Mario
I think
game.
a lot of her arguments are just very, very bad and just fall flat. And
I guess the question that comes to mind, and then maybe there's probably not a real indelicate way to say this, is are women who typically lack that kind of attention more upset about it? Honestly, I don't know how else to say it.
Anita Sarkeesian's a very pretty girl. I bet.
Well, I'm asking.
No, I kind of think it's just kind of want to dictate how the world works, kind of thing, and I don't really understand it. It's gotten to a point now where sometimes when people have given me a compliment, they also like say sorry to me for it, because they're like, I know I'm objectifying you, but you look really sexy. And I'm like, it's calm down, it's fine. You don't have to say sorry for giving me a compliment. And it's a shame of objectifying women. And like it's natural. We look at each other's body parts. We're animals, and it's fine. We have sexual attraction. It's okay. And she's one of those feminists that takes it way too far and reads way too much into things.
Yeah, there's a big difference between saying that a person is sexy and women are only valuable for their looks or their bodies. There's a myriad of middle ground. Mm-hmm. But I think the regressive left, and you mention it like in your blogs, it plays over. It's not just in the sexism, but also as it relates to like Islam. There's a lot of folks that say, don't criticize religion. Don't say anything bad about this. I mean, what are your thoughts on what happened with the Paris bombings? Are like, how does it relate? What are your thoughts on how it relates to?
Well, I don't think any sort of speech should be censored. Even if it's speech I don't like, I don't think it should be censored. So I think it's fine to criticize a religion if you have good points to make about the religion. I don't think it's good to just go out and say like Islam is just stupid and have no reason for it. Like make good points. And
but it's not. But it seems like it's been equated with racism. That if you criticize this, it's the same thing.
That whole thing that's creative. It just doesn't make any sense to me, because we can have a religion. People aren't just born into their religion. People are born into their religion, but they can switch it. There's people of many different races that are Islamic. There's white people and black people that are also Islamic.
Right.
And
I've recently changed my opinion of My Little Pony. I no longer think it's just a girls thing. My belief has changed.
Watch it on Netflix.
I'm going to become a brony. I have a 6-year-old girl and a 7-year-old boy, and I'm gonna make them all watch.
There are really good messages in My Little Pony. So
there you go.
Much better than the Quran or
it's hard. That's easy to believe right there. She's Atheist Nerd Girl. You can find her at WordPress, atheistnerdgirl.wordpress.com. You can find her at Poor Old Kilgore on Twitter.
Why is he a pirate?
Because it's just it's piratey, Irish piratey. It's just that whole thing.
Do you know how much pirate corn costs?
Pirate what?
Corn.
Pirate corn?
C-O-R. About $1 a year. Sorry, and I just
Jesus.
throwing. Come on, it's the only pirate joke I had. Ready to go.
You can find us at MYTHICIST, MKE, and at Robinero. You can tweet us during the podcast, and we will do our best to answer any tweets. You're big on Twitter. You got 14,000 followers. It's a lot more than
Crazy.
a lot more than we have. Brian, I think you should get on board with the picture lead that our friend is using, and maybe we can gain some more.
Yes, I've been criticized for my lack of twittering and tweeting. However, I did recently do it. Godless Utopia did have a voting piece, and I think you said to vote for you, so I did do a Twitter vote, and I think I did it correctly. And they were having a vote for, I think, like the smartest, the hottest, the something else atheist out there.
Yeah.
Do you do a Facebook too, or is it all Twitter?
I'm not really a Facebook fan.
Wow.
I actually got really into Twitter because I got frustrated with Facebook, and
It's so much better.
I wanted other atheists to talk to. I was getting frustrated with the haters on Facebook.
Yes,
so.
it's ugly. No,
You could be more anonymous, I think, on Twitter too.
You
Yeah,
can.
but I'm not anonymous. My face is there, so, as you can see.
It's just so much more streamlined, and people need to get to the point. And there's blah, 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 and your memes and weirdness. It's just I don't know, and all the
I just don't really like
ads
it.
and peripheral
One of these
games.
days, I need to do another just poor old Kilgore Facebook.
It's just start it because that's where people go and attach it to your Twitter, and don't really do much else with it. That's what I would recommend. Really, then you have one so people look for it, and then they're like, where is she on Facebook? But you don't have to pay attention to both. You just attach them, and then everything you tweet will be on your Facebook.
Yeah.
And let it go.
Do you see like the regressive leftism maybe part of PC culture? That it's gone too far. I mean, what do you make of South Park?
It's too much language policing and too much caring about our feelings, and I think it's it's more insulting to just try to protect people's feelings than to just let them feel.
Mm-hmm.
Are you like I am, where you're old enough to remember before PC? Do you remember the 70s at all? And do you miss them?
Oh no, I'm not. I was born in the late 80s.
No, I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm just asking. That's why it wasn't meant to be any kind of an insult. I remember before PC was invented, and it was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful halcyon time.
It's a compliment that he thought you were born in the 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, I just wasn't paying attention. We're not about ageism here. You could have been any age from all I know. It was an innocent query.
It was an innocent query.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm nothing if not an innocent courier.
in your former life, right? Like now we're Hindu.
Now we're reincarnated. Yes, indeed. And I'll talk about pantheons. What do you make of the lack of we talked about the sexism? Is there how do we reach and is there a need to? How do we get Latinos and blacks out of their deeply steeped religious culture to kind of jump off the fence if any of them are thinking about being atheists?
That's a tough one with the whole it's steeped in the culture thing.
It is.
My best friend is actually Mexican, and her parents still drag her to Catholic church with them, and she's an atheist, but she's afraid to ever say that to them.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
Yeah, it's rough when it's really important to the family like that, really steeped in the culture. So my parents call themselves Christians, but they're not hardcore into it and don't go to church and things like that. So I've had it easy. So I would like to help people come out of religion more, but right now I can't think of a great answer to tell you on that one when it's steeped into the culture so much. The best thing to do is to be a rebel, I guess, but that's always really hard. So.
I think, doing what you're doing is just raising exposure to it. And the more people that do it, there's always first adopters and the waves that come after them. You're at the vanguard, perhaps.
You're listening to the Mythicist Milwaukee Show. It's time for a feature we like to call Myth of the Day.
Yeah.
Here's Antonio with today's Myth of the Day. Take it away, Antonio.
Thank you again, Alyssa, for being on the show with us today. I would like to start out by stating all the wonderful individuals that have retweeted or liked your appearance on today's show, in addition to the entire Mythicist Milwaukee team and their individual Twitter accounts. We have as well Helmo and Kraft, and you also have some competition on Twitter for the most beautiful atheist, Makina McClelland, God's Will, Miss Atheist, Steve Shives, Imperator Letha. We also have Paul Provenza from The Green Room, very famous actor, and also Peachy Friend. So our myth of the day, gods and goddesses walking on water. In the Ugaritic text, the goddess Asherah was known as, quote-unquote, she who treads on the sea, 1200 BCE. As a side note, the sacred sea or lake upon which Asherah trods was known as Yam Kinneret and is now called Lake Galilee. So, walking on water was a miracle attributed to many mythological figures before Judaism, Islam, or Christianity were even considered as a concept. The Etruscan god Usul dashed across breaking waves 1000 to 500 BC. And on his way to see the Lord or Blessed One, Buddha walks on water as a shortcut, 500 BCE. And that is our myth of the day.
Very good. You know, I don't notice that in the myth. Is there any superheroes that walk on water? There's not.
Well, the Aquaman, I'm sure could.
I
Yeah,
could.
do.
It never does.
I don't know why.
Pretty
Why
sure
don't
Superman
they?
could.
I mean, it's not that cool of a
Superman
power.
could do it. She's right. It would just be like a version of flying. You could create the illusion of walking on water.
I mean, you could walk across somebody's
You
pool,
float.
but that's not like, leaping over a building in a single bound.
It's a warm day in January in Milwaukee, so I actually walked on water on my way in today.
Well done.
Thank you. I'll be here all week. It's about 2:45. We got 15 more minutes left. We're talking to the atheist nerd girl. Where do you stand on mythicism? Of course, we got into this. I got into this because I'm the loudmouthed asshole of atheism around here. But most of my friends are myth geeks. First, they're interested in the Christ myth theory and lack of evidence for his historical existence. Where do you have an opinion on that? Did Jesus ever exist in any form, or is it all completely fabricated?
I'm on the myth side of things.
All right.
Hey, mythicist.
Yeah, I actually found you guys because of the Richard Carrier interview. So.
Who score?
right.
Very good. Richard
Yeah, I'm a
Carrier.
big fan of his. So.
Good deal. Yeah, that's that on YouTube. Over 30,000 hits. I want to say. That's
right.
It's a massive score for the team.
Indeed. And contrarying the stereotype that nerds don't know how to party, he was up into the basement until 5 a.m. playing Cards Against Humanity and lots of other fun stuff. So, fun guy. And smart.
Awesome.
I mean, a couple things that your blog is really, really good. I poured through it. And
Thank you.
Just a couple of the things I think I liked the best when you were talking about the latest Paris attacks, which I think were in November. So I hope that's not ancient history, but you were talking about how people were praying and how you found it so ironic how people were praying after attacks, committed by religious extremism, and that you're saying that a secular government, what's the fear of a secular government? If you really buy into it, like, what do we care about promotions or how we look and this and that? Heaven's only really all that matters. So in some ways, religion can be very deleterious. It's excellent stuff, and I encourage anyone to go check it out because there's a lot. Just you synthesize things and explain them in a way that just really ding, stuff goes on.
Thank you so
well
much.
done.
That's great to hear.
Have you dabbled in YouTube? Have you thought about videos at all? Do you do any of that?
I just started filming some things. I'm planning on releasing them in the near future. I'm not exactly sure when, but keep following my Twitter for that. So.
Yeah, no, but believe me, if you have 14,000 on Twitter, you'll get right to that quickly on YouTube, I'm sure.
Let's hope.
Yeah, no, that's cool. What kind of stuff will you more like your blog, or are you going to branch out into
kind of similar to my blog. I kind of want to do a little bit more goofy and fun stuff.
There you go.
I don't really want to go into detail.
No, that's fine.
no.
Yeah, we're just getting an idea of your range here. You do some comedy, do some sarcasm, some more cynical kind of funny stuff, maybe different stuff. As do we. We have this high-minded podcast where we talk to scholarly researchers from around the world, and we have a satirical video
that's our
series
conceit, right?
on YouTube called Holy Shit. If you haven't checked that out, you can.
Yes.
You can see those. They make fun of the Bible.
Very fun
pretty
and
good there, and
satirical.
kind of give a little bit more of an edge. Than we do here, which is a little more tolerant and accepting.
And you're right. And we do the top 10. I don't have a top 10 favorites of Alyssa's blog, but I'd say that the number one, I do have a number one of her quote. She says, God often sounds like a shitty delinquent dad that'll only help out when people beg really hard for it. Well done. So I think if you're getting into the satire and humor, you're going to do well.
Nice.
Thank you.
The one what stood out for me was a couple blogs ago, something that we all encounter when you're arguing with religious people. The people that don't want to let go of the concept just redefine God. Talk to us about your observations there.
Oh, geez. Yeah. God, but I said it so well in the blog.
You did. I think I can remember it. I took notes.
Well, it happens. I mean, even I'm dealing with this with my 19-year-old daughter, who's great, but I kind of raised her an atheist, and now she's rebelling because she's my daughter and she's that age, and so she's got her own I believe in God. But when you talk to her about what that belief is, it's just a.
It's
just
like
a,
not actually something. Like
No.
the more you break it down,
Yes, it's one of
where
these.
it's like it's just this force, this feeling I have, and it's like, but what is this feeling? Can you actually tell me? Like, there's somebody I talked to recently that mentioned, who's a believer, that mentioned cosmic Christ, like that he doesn't literally believe in the Christ of the Bible, but does like certain things in the Bible.
Yeah, Paul's
But
Christ.
Paul's
Yeah.
Christ, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that, it's just kind of this, like, it's like the hippie Jesus thing. Like,
Right.
let's just fit Jesus to whatever sort of,
Peaceful message we have. And,
whatever message I'd like it to be.
Right, that your God lines up with that whatever values you already previous hold. So if extreme, then you have an extreme God. If you're this just happy-go-lucky, your God's more like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
the one like the God in
God
Dogma. It's Alanis Morissette.
There's actually like a psychological theory that goes along with this that I'm like completely blanking on, but it has to do with like a mirror kind of thing. Like God is a kind of a mirror of our personality.
And that's the kind of the Dalai Lama's take in a way. You try to be a person who shows the person that you're with the best of themselves, if you possibly can. When queried about if he was God, from a believer, a Hindu, I think, asked him that question. If the movie Kundun is to be believed. But the ones that I get are,
Now you're just
like she
showing
said, a force that, that's Jediism. And it's, again, if you really look at it, it's atheistic. That's, if there is a life force that runs through us, that's just unexplained science, and it probably is real. And great. Okay. So that's another form of atheism. And then there's it's just God is just the best of what you are inside you. And you're when you find, again, thank you. That's just a way to say there is no God. Right? Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah,
people don't want to.
Avatar's
always
God.
this undefinable thing.
People don't want to let go of it, and like your mom, my mom's a bit the same way. Can't you just call yourself agnostic? It's like, well, we're all agnostic, and we're smart enough to know that we don't know that there's no God.
Yeah.
It's just the least likely possibility. We've all seen every episode of Star Trek, and every one of those possibilities is more likely than God. And that's what keeps us coming back. It's like someday, we may in fact discover everything, and religion, as our previous guest, pointed out, has to put a mystery door in another door. And once an answer is found, there's another question behind it, and so religion can always just kind of move the goal. But it's these fundamentalists that that want to go backwards instead.
Yeah, I think it's just religion is holding us back in general.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
Are you a positivist? Are you an optimist in terms of the future? Do you think we'll never see it, but do you think we'll have a religion, a society pretty religion free?
I try to be optimistic. I try to be very positive about things. I think that's why I try to speak out about atheism and kind of be a good example for atheism as much as I can, because I would like a future to happen where where religion just kind of dies off and humanity can advance more. I don't want, it's funny, Christian trolls on Twitter always are like, you want to ban religion. And I'm like, no, I don't want to ban religion. I want people to reason it away.
Right. We want it to evolve out.
Yeah.
Right. And reason it out for yourself.
It was the original science, and now it's just not needed.
But just like a comic deals, well with hecklers, I noticed that one of your comments to one of the more obnoxious trollers was, by trolling me, you're just letting me know that you're paying attention. And thanks for thanks for taking an interest, dude, which I thought was a great smiley way to take them out.
It's funny that you say it that way, because I'm a big fan of stand-up comedy. I'm very inspired by a bunch of stand-up comics. So I kind of take a cue from that kind of thing, where I just with any haters I get online, I try to not take things too personally and just kind of snap back with things.
Who's your favorite?
I was just going to ask, who should we be listening to? Who's your favorite comedian?
Oh, geez.
Or top 3 or the top 10.
It's so hard to say. Ricky Gervais, Eddie Izzard, Jim Jeffries, Louis C.K., Patton Oswalt, Maria Bamford.
Wow.
Doug Benson. I can name so
many. That really
Yes.
almost was a top 10.
It's a list.
That's impressive.
It's a list of usual suspects for a good free-thinking atheist, for sure. It's
What?
I said that's a good list
Yeah.
of usual suspects for free thinkers. You know, atheists tend to have all those guys on their list. and
Bo Burnham
gals
should be
too.
in there too.
Yeah,
You know,
there
the
you
singing
go. There you
comedian.
go.
He's got a
He's
good one
okay.
about God.
I like him all right. But
You like what?
I like Bo Burnham all right. But
Yeah, right. She's not crazy about Bo. It's 2:55. We're wrapping up in about 5 minutes. We're talking to Alyssa, the atheist nerd girl. I want to make sure we mention the debate series, Buzzed Belief, that we are sponsoring. Coming up, the first event, March 19th, at Shank Hall here in Milwaukee. Kind of a little, kind of a banquet room festival, a little bit of a.
They have concerts.
You get little concerts
Stephen
there.
Lynch
yeah,
was there.
Yeah, that kind of a joint. And that one's free, so there's no excuse for all of you buzzed believers and non-believers to come out and
It is free.
and listen to Richard Carrier, Dr. Richard Carrier, the great mythicist, and Justin Bass, the great evangelist. I got to give him his plug now. He's agreed to participate and actually come into the Lion's Den and defend his point of view. A young Earth creationist is going to debate the evidence for the resurrection. If anybody
Is he young Earth?
I believe he is. I've looked at his website,
Okay.
and I think he's a fundy and a literal biblical literalist.
Okay.
But he's sure got his little empire going, and he's going to debate on that side, obviously, against Richard Carrier, surrounding the topic of the evidence for the resurrection.
Right.
Interested to see what possible evidence there might be presented for a resurrection. So it should be enlightening on March 19th at Shank Hall. Get your tickets at MYTHICISTMilwaukee.com. What else you got for us the last couple minutes? You want to plug anything in particular? You're writing a book. You
oh geez.
cutting an album, Melissa?
I think eventually I'd like to work on a book, but no, not right now.
Not yet, no. But your blog is it's outstanding, and you've
thank you so much.
You well deserve your follower. How many subscribers on WordPress? You got stats there too? I didn't look at that.
I think I only have like 100 something
Right.
on WordPress. Actually, I think most of my following is just people checking up
That's
on
all
me.
right.
So-
You got the link on Twitter, and that's about 98 more followers than I have with my blog. But of course, I don't blog very often, so it's hard to keep it
Twitter's a good one.
flowing in. Yeah, but 14,000 on Twitter is impressive, and that's at Poro Kilgore.
Right, and
Find it there.
speaking of the evidence for the resurrection, she has on there, Jesus sitting everybody down. A meme where he says, "Look, I want to get this right. I don't want there to be like 4 different versions."
I won't have to tell people again, right?
Yeah, that was like, if I had any followers, I'd retweet that stuff. That was good stuff. But you do have the satirical video series that you don't want to tell too much about. Is that definitely going to happen?
Yes, I've started making some things. So.
Cool. Do you got a name for it yet?
Well, I'm gonna be poor old Kilgore. So.
All right. Poor old Kilgore on YouTube.
Yep.
All right.
Well, we're going to look for that, and I'm being told by the engineers to mention our Patreon page. It's patreon.com, and you can pledge as little or as much as you'd like per show. And please do that to help us keep the lights on around here. Are you you're looking at being able to do? You have a day job, I'm sure, but if you get on YouTube, maybe you start making money doing this. You got any aspirations there?
We'll see. We'll see how things go. I don't want to put too much stock into it, you know.
Right. Well, very
I don't
good.
want to be like become an internet famous, gonna forget everything else. No.
Yeah, you never know. I'd like to be able to do it. Hating what I do for a living as I do, make the leap to do this full time, like others have done. Who do you read? Are you a person who looks at the YouTube and watches a lot of other atheist writers, and do you follow blogs much?
Well, there's a few people I watch on YouTube, like Steve Shives and Bible Reloaded and Creationist Cat.
I've never heard of that one.
Oh, they're funny, and but then there's like a bunch of other people I watch on YouTube that are not atheist things, like movie reviews, like this guy called Cinema Snob and stuff like that. So
I'm a cinema snob. Dang, wish I'd have thought of that. You got to be the kind of person who sits. Is it hard to do a blog every so often to keep it regular? Do you have to like beat yourself up to make sure you do that?
I'm so bad about keeping up with it.
Oh, it's tough.
I try to keep with at least once a month for a good one, or so many every few weeks or something like that. But I'm gonna get better about it.
It's tough, right? Do you have a bunch of drafts? You look in that draft section, and you have a bunch waiting that you never get around.
Yeah,
to.
I have ones I'm like half.
Yeah.
Written and it's hard with work and things too. But I'm trying to focus on this whole atheism community stuff a lot more. So yeah.
That a girl.
Yep.
Keep up the good work, and thank you so much for joining us. I want to invite you to stay on the
Thank
line
you for having me.
on the line afterwards for a minute, if you would, so that the producer can talk to you. Sean can talk to you for a second and tell you about the links. Again, she is Atheist Nerd Girl at Poor Old Kilgore on Twitter. 14,000 followers, so there's something there. So get on board and follow what she does. She's coming out with a YouTube channel that we're all like, the guys around here are like, oh, when's that coming? I got to get on that. So we're looking forward to a lot of stuff. Next week, we have Michael Sherlock, the author and mythicist, live on the Mythicist Milwaukee show again, Sunday at 2 p.m., and that is February 14th.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day. Oh, and there's two that day. Oh, wow. My headphones are blowing up here. We also have Thomas Smith. It'll be at 3:30. So 2 in a row podcasts next week, and we're done. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Bye-bye.